All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful blueprint for managing performance, the Fitzgerald and Moon building block model.
So, let's start with a question. Measuring success? It's easy, right? You just look at the bottom line, the profit, and call it a day. Simple.
Well, not always. I mean, think about it. How do you really measure the quality of a service? Like a great haircut or solid legal advice? Especially in service industries, things get complicated, fast.
But the good news is there's a blueprint to help sort all this out. It's a framework that gives you a solid foundation to build on.
And this is it, the Fitzgerald and Moon building block model. Now, it was originally designed for service businesses, but honestly, its logic is so solid, you see it being used pretty much everywhere now. It's all built around three core ideas, or blocks: dimensions, standards, and rewards. So, let's take them one by one. Okay, block one, dimensions. This is the foundation, right? Before you can measure anything, you've got to decide what actually matters. This whole block is about answering that fundamental question: what should we even be measuring in the first place? So, to put it simply, dimensions are just your goals. They're the key areas you absolutely have to nail to succeed. Think of them as the pillars holding up your entire strategy. This is the what to measure. Now, the model gets really clever here. It splits dimensions into two types. On one side, you have determinants. These are the drivers of success, kind of like leading indicators. They're the things you do now that will hopefully lead to great results later. And on the other side, you have the results themselves. These are the outcomes, the lagging indicators like profit that tell you how you did in the past. And this is so important. The model really pushes you to focus on those drivers, the determinants. Why? Because those are the levers you can actually pull. We're talking about things like quality, how flexible you are, innovation, and how well you're using your resources. If you get these things right, the good results, well, they should follow. Okay, let's bring this down to earth with a simple coffee shop example. For them, innovation isn't just some big, fuzzy corporate word. It's real stuff, like deciding to introduce a new cold brew recipe or switching to those cool eco-friendly cups. It's a tangible action they're taking to drive better results. And that, of course, leads us to the other half of the coin, the results. This is where we look at the outcomes. You've got your financial performance, the usual suspects like profit and revenue. But then there's competitive performance, which is just as crucial. How do you actually stack up against your rivals? Let's go back to our coffee shop. Their competitive performance isn't just about who sells more coffee. It's about having those glowing 4.8-star reviews online when the place down the street is sitting at a 4.2. That's a super clear signal that they're winning over customers. All right, so we've figured out what to measure. That's block one. Now let's build on that with block two, the standards. This is where we get specific. It's not enough to just say we want to be innovative. You have to actually define what good looks like. Standards are basically your targets, your key performance indicators, or KPIs. They put a number on the goal. So if the dimension is innovation, the standard could be something concrete, like launch 3 new drinks every year. This is the how well part of the puzzle. But you can't just pull these numbers out of thin air. For standards to actually work, they need to follow a few rules. First, they've got to be fair for everyone involved. That's equity. Second, your employees have to buy into them. They need to feel a sense of ownership. And third, they have to be achievable. I mean, setting an impossible target is just a recipe for disaster, right? It just crushes morale. Back to the coffee shop. Equity means you can't give the barista working the crazy morning rush the exact same sales target as the barista on the quiet afternoon shift. It just wouldn't be fair. The goals have to make sense for the situation. Okay, so we know what to measure and we know how well we need to do it. But so what? Why should any employee actually care about hitting these targets? And that brings us to our third and final block, rewards. This is the glue that connects the big company goals to what actually motivates people. Yup, a reward system is the answer to that classic question everyone asks: what's in it for me? It's the engine that actually encourages people to aim for those standards we just talked about. It provides the why behind the whole thing. And you guessed it, just like with standards, there are some key principles here. For a reward system to be effective, it has to check 3 boxes. 1, it has to actually create motivation. Sounds obvious, but it's crucial. 2, it has to be clear. No confusion. Everyone knows exactly how it works. And 3, and this one is a biggie, controllability. You can only reward or penalize people for things they actually have control over. I mean, think about it. It would be totally nuts to penalize our coffee shop barista for low sales on a Tuesday when the power was out for half the day, right? They had zero control over that situation.
That's a perfect example of controllability. So that's the theory: dimensions, standards, rewards. It sounds good on paper, but is anyone actually using this stuff out there in the real world? Let's see. And the answer is a resounding yes. This is not just some dusty old textbook theory. The source material for this explainer points out that versions of this exact model are used to regulate massive, essential services in Australia. We're talking electricity, gas, railways, postal services, the whole shebang. That just goes to show you how powerful and practical this framework really is. So let's bring it all back together and look at the whole picture one more time. Now you can really see how it all fits, right? The dimensions are like your map. They set the direction. The standards are your destination. They define where you're going. And the rewards? That's the fuel in the tank that gets you there. You need all three. Take one away, and the whole system falls apart.
So if you remember anything, remember this. It's so simple. Dimensions answer what, standards answer how well, and rewards answer why. Get those three pieces of the puzzle right, and you've got yourself an incredibly powerful way to manage performance. And that kind of leaves us with a final question for you to think about. If you had to design a performance system for your own job right now, what would your building blocks be? What are your dimensions? What standards would you set for yourself? And what rewards would really motivate you to hit them? It's a fascinating way to think about performance, not just for a business, but for you.